A jealous whisper shatters Jimin's smile, igniting a slow-burning storm of love, insecurity, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. "Stop smiling at him." The words weren't loud, but they cut through the roar of the backstage crowd like a blade dragged slowly across glass. Jimin froze mid-laugh, his hand still resting lightly on another idol's shoulder, the bright stage lights washing everything in gold and chaos. Fans screamed beyond the curtain. Staff hurried past with headsets and clipboards, but all Jimin could hear was the low, controlled tremor in Jungkook's voice right behind him. He turned. Jungkook stood too close. Close enough that Jimin could feel the warmth of his breath near his ear, could smell the faint mix of citrus cologne and something darker, nerves maybe. His jaw was tight, eyes darker than usual, not angry in a loud way, but in a quiet, dangerous one. "I was just being polite," Jimin said softly, though his pulse had already begun to race. Jungkook's gaze flicked toward the other idol, who had tactfully stepped away, sensing tension like animals sense an approaching storm. Then his eyes returned to Jimin. "I don't like it," Jungkook murmured. There it was, not shouted, not dramatic, just honest, raw. Episode 1 unfolded in that narrow strip of space between them. Jimin felt the weight of 100 unspoken things pressing against his ribs. Jungkook had always been intense, loving hard, working harder, thinking too much when the lights went out and the world finally went quiet. But this was different. This wasn't playful jealousy. This was something tangled deeper. "You don't like what?" Jimin challenged, tilting his head slightly. He had a habit of smiling when cornered, a reflex from years of cameras and expectations. It was armor disguised as charm. Jungkook noticed. He always noticed. "That smile," Jungkook said, "the one you give when you're trying to make someone feel special." The words should have sounded possessive in a way that pushed Jimin away. Instead, they made his chest tighten, because Jungkook wasn't wrong. Jimin did smile differently when he wanted someone to feel seen. It was his quiet talent, making people feel chosen in a room full of noise. It was also the thing that had first drawn Jungkook in years ago, when he had been the shy youngest member watching from the corner. Now Jungkook was no longer shy, but he was still afraid. The stage manager called their names. The curtain was about to rise. Jimin reached out, gripping Jungkook's wrist just briefly. "We're about to go on stage," he whispered. "Don't do this here." Jungkook's throat bobbed. He nodded once. Professional, controlled, perfect. And yet, when they stepped into the blinding lights together, their choreography sharper than ever, something had shifted. The tension bled into their performance, electrifying every glance, every near touch. Fans would later call it magnetic. They had no idea it was friction. Episode 2 began in the silence of the car ride home. Rain streaked across the tinted windows. The city blurred outside like a half-forgotten dream. The other members were quiet, tired. Jungkook stared out the window, headphones on, but no music playing. Jimin watched him from across the seat, studying the familiar slope of his shoulders. Jungkook's jealousy wasn't about that one idol. It never was. It was about something older. "Talk to me," Jimin said finally, once they were alone in the apartment. Jungkook let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped for days. "Do you know what it's like," he asked quietly, "to feel like you're competing with the entire world?" Jimin frowned. "Competing? For your attention, for your time, for your smile." The confession was almost painful in its sincerity. Jungkook wasn't afraid of losing fans. He wasn't afraid of headlines or rumors. He was afraid of fading into the background of Jimin's life, the way he once had in his own family, overlooked, expected to be strong, praised for achievements, but rarely held when he felt small. Jimin crossed the room and sat beside him on the couch. The air smelled faintly of laundry detergent and rain-soaked clothes. "You think I don't see you?" Jimin asked. Jungkook's laugh was soft and humorless. "Everyone sees me." "That's not what I asked." Silence settled between them, heavy but not hostile. Episode 3 peeled back layers neither of them had touched in years. Jimin confessed that he smiled too much when he was anxious, that being adored by strangers sometimes felt easier than being vulnerable with the one person who mattered most. Jungkook admitted he hated how much he needed reassurance, how it made him feel weak. "You're not weak," Jimin said, brushing his thumb along Jungkook's knuckles, a small habit he had when grounding himself. "You're just scared." Jungkook looked at him then, truly looked at him, and something fragile flickered there. "I am," he whispered. The external world didn't pause for their emotional unraveling. Rumors sparked online days later, clips of Jimin laughing with that same idol, slowed down, analyzed, dramatized. Headlines hinted at tension. Fans speculated. Episode 4 brought confrontation not between them, but against the noise outside. Jungkook surprised Jimin by not retreating. Instead of sulking, he stood beside him during interviews, subtly protective, subtly proud. Backstage one night, as stylists fussed over their outfits, Jungkook leaned close again. But this time his voice held no accusation. "I don't want to control you," he said. "I just don't want to feel invisible." Jimin's heart ached. He cupped Jungkook's face briefly, ignoring the startled glances from staff. "You could never be invisible to me." Episode 5 deepened into something softer. They began creating small rituals, late-night cooking sessions, quiet walks when schedules allowed, shared playlists that no one else heard. Jungkook started speaking up sooner when something bothered him. Jimin practiced lowering the mask, letting his smile fade when he was tired instead of forcing brightness. Their love shifted from sparks to something steadier, like embers that refused to die. Episode 6 tested them again when a misunderstanding nearly spiraled out of control. A misread message, a missed call, old insecurities flaring, but instead of whispering jealous commands, Jungkook said, "I'm scared again." And Jimin didn't laugh. He didn't deflect. He pulled Jungkook into a hug that felt less like possession and more like home. "You can tell me," Jimin said into his shoulder, "even when it's ugly." Episode 7 unfolded not with drama, but with clarity. At another award show, another crowded backstage, Jimin found himself laughing at something a colleague said. He felt eyes on him and turned instinctively. Jungkook was watching. For a split second, the old tension threatened to resurface, but Jungkook simply walked over, slid an arm around Jimin's waist, and pressed a brief kiss to his temple. Not claiming, not warning. Just choosing. Jimin looked up at him, searching. Jungkook's eyes were steady now. "You can smile," Jungkook murmured, softer than before, almost amused. "Just save one for me." Jimin laughed, genuine and unguarded. "You get the real ones," he replied. And this time, when the stage lights exploded around them and the crowd roared like thunder, there was no sharp whisper cutting through the noise. Only two heartbeats learning, slowly and imperfectly, how to trust the space between fear and love, and finding that it was wide enough for both of them to stand without disappearing. The night it finally exploded, it wasn't because of a smile. It was because of a door left slightly open and a sentence spoken too honestly. "I'm tired of pretending I'm okay with this." Jimin stopped mid-step in the dim hallway of their apartment, the faint hum of the refrigerator the only sound between them. Jungkook stood in the living room, sleeves pushed up, hair still damp from a shower he clearly took to cool himself down. His eyes weren't soft this time, they were burning. "Okay with what?" Jimin asked, though his voice betrayed him, he already knew. "With everyone thinking they have a piece of you," Jungkook's jaw tightened, "with interviews that blur lines, with skinship that isn't just performance anymore." Jimin's breath caught. "So now you're accusing me. I'm telling you how it feels." "That's not the same thing." The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Jimin stepped closer, heart hammering. "You said you trusted me." "I do," Jungkook's reply was immediate, desperate. "But trust doesn't turn off jealousy. It doesn't silence the voice in my head that says I'm replaceable." There it was again, that word. Replaceable. Jimin felt something twist sharply in his chest. He had spent years fighting to prove he was more than a concept, more than an image. And now, the person he loved most thought he might treat him like something temporary. "You think I'd replace you?" Jimin's voice trembled, not with weakness but with anger. "I think you don't realize how easy it would be for someone else to step into the space I fight to keep." The air turned colder. Outside, distant traffic passed like a reminder that the world didn't care about the quiet war happening inside these four walls. "You're not fighting me," Jimin said slowly. "You're fighting ghosts." Jungkook let out a sharp breath. "You don't get it." "Then make me get it." Silence. Then Jungkook did something unexpected. He crossed the distance between them and grabbed Jimin's wrist, not harshly, but urgently. He pressed Jimin's palm flat against his chest. "Feel that," he whispered. Jimin felt it, the heartbeat fast and uneven. "It's like this every time I see someone look at you like they want more," Jungkook continued. "Every time you laugh too sweetly, every time you walk away, and I don't know if you'll come back to me first." Jimin swallowed. The confession wasn't possessive, it was raw. "And what about me?" Jimin shot back, pulling his hand free. "You think I don't feel things? You think I don't notice the way people watch you, the way they talk about you, the rumors?" Jungkook blinked. "I'm terrified too," Jimin admitted, voice cracking now, "but I don't try to cage you because of it." The word cage hit hard. Jungkook stepped back as if struck. "I would never cage you." "Then stop acting like my smile is a crime." The argument could have ended there, two wounded egos retreating into separate rooms, pride sealing their mouths shut. But something else happened. Jungkook laughed. It wasn't mocking, it was broken. "You think this is about control?" he asked quietly. "It's not, it's about fear." Jimin's anger flickered, confused. "I grew up thinking if I wasn't the best, I'd disappear," Jungkook continued. "If I wasn't needed, I'd be left behind. And you," his voice softened dangerously, "you are the one person I can't afford to lose." The confession changed the temperature of the room. Jimin's shoulders sagged slightly. "You won't lose me because someone else makes me laugh." "Then why does it feel like I'm always one mistake away from it?" Jimin stepped closer this time, deliberately invading Jungkook's space. Their breaths mingled. "Because you don't forgive yourself," he said gently, "not for anything." Jungkook's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with vulnerability he rarely showed. "And what if one day you wake up," Jungkook murmured, "and realize I'm too much, too intense, too jealous, too damaged?" Jimin reached up and gripped Jungkook's collar, pulling him down until their foreheads touched. "Then I'll tell you to your face," he whispered fiercely. "I won't drift away, I won't disappear on you. Stop creating endings that haven't happened." The proximity made the tension shift into something electric, heated, yes, but not destructive. Jungkook's hands hovered at Jimin's waist, uncertain, like he was asking permission without words. "You drive me insane," Jungkook breathed. "You drive yourself insane," Jimin shot back, but there was a tremor of affection beneath it. A notification buzzed on Jungkook's phone, shattering the moment. He glanced down, his expression changed instantly. "What?" Jimin demanded. Jungkook hesitated. "Jungkook." "It's trending," he said quietly. "What is?" "What?" The word dropped heavy. Jimin grabbed the phone from his hand. Social media was ablaze with speculation, edited clips, slowed-down glances, headlines questioning tension, chemistry, fights. One particularly cruel article suggested a rift and hinted at outside involvement. "They're saying we argued backstage," Jimin muttered. "We did," Jungkook replied dryly. "That's not the point." Another notification popped up, a fan-captured video, the moment Jungkook had whispered, "Stop smiling at him." It had been caught from a different angle. Lip readers were dissecting it already. Jimin's stomach dropped. "This is going to blow up," he whispered. Jungkook's expression hardened, not defensive but resolute. Let it. Jimin looked up sharply. What? For once, I'm tired of hiding how much I care, Jungkook said. I'm tired of pretending I don't feel anything. And what exactly are you suggesting? Jimin asked, pulse quickening. I'm suggesting we stop acting like we're strangers when it's convenient. The words were dangerous, controversial, world-shifting. You realize what that means, Jimin said carefully. I do. It could change everything. Jungkook stepped forward again, eyes steady now. Maybe everything needs to change. Jimin searched his face for hesitation. He found none, only fear and determination stronger than it. The world outside was already speculating, already writing their story for them. Are you ready for that kind of storm? Jimin asked. Jungkook gave a faint, crooked smile. I've been in storms my whole life. Jimin's chest tightened. He moved first this time, wrapping his arms around Jungkook's neck and pulling him into a hug that felt less like surrender and more like a decision. You're not replaceable, Jimin murmured against his shoulder. Not in any universe I live in. Jungkook's arms tightened around his waist. Then stop smiling for everyone else like they matter more, he whispered, not as a command this time, but as a plea. Jimin leaned back just enough to look at him. I don't smile because they matter more, he said softly. I smile because I'm scared too. It's easier than letting people see when I'm overwhelmed. Jungkook's expression shifted again, surprise, then understanding. You hide in plain sight, he said. And you fight shadows, Jimin replied. For the first time that night, Jungkook's lips curved in something real. Then maybe, he said quietly, brushing his thumb along Jimin's cheek. The storm arrived before sunrise. Jimin woke to the vibration of his phone, rattling violently against the nightstand, over and over again, like it refused to be ignored. Jungkook was already sitting up in bed, back rigid, staring at his own screen in the pale blue glow of early morning. It's everywhere, Jungkook said quietly. Jimin didn't need to ask what it was. He opened his notifications and felt his throat tighten. Headlines screamed in bold fonts. Edited clips looped endlessly. The whisper, the hand at his waist, the look in Jungkook's eyes. Fans were divided, some romanticizing, some furious, some dissecting every millisecond like forensic analysts. One article went further than the rest. Sources claim escalating tension behind the scenes, possible internal conflict. Jimin exhaled slowly. They're building a narrative. They always do, Jungkook replied, voice flat. But this time, the narrative was too close to the truth. Their manager's name flashed across Jungkook's phone. Speaker, Jimin said. Jungkook answered. What happened? The manager demanded without greeting. Are you two trying to start a wildfire? We didn't do anything wrong, Jungkook replied calmly. Public perception decides what's wrong. Jimin ran a hand through his hair, already feeling the weight of the day pressing down on his lungs. You need to be careful today, the manager continued. There's a live broadcast tonight, no unnecessary skinship, no whispering, no lingering looks. The irony almost made Jimin laugh. After the call ended, silence stretched between them again. So we go back to pretending, Jimin asked softly. Jungkook looked at him, something defiant flickering beneath his exhaustion. Do you want to? Jimin hesitated. That was the problem, he didn't know anymore. The live broadcast felt like stepping into a battlefield disguised as a celebration. Cameras hovered from every angle. The stage lights were blinding. The audience was louder than usual, charged with curiosity. Jimin could feel it, the way every interaction was being monitored, every breath calculated. They stood side by side during the opening segment, but there was a deliberate inch of space between them. Not enough for casual viewers to notice, enough for them to feel it like a crack in glass. Smile, Jungkook muttered under his breath, not as a jealous command this time, but as a warning. I am smiling, Jimin replied without moving his lips. Not that one, the real ones. Jimin's jaw tightened. The host made a teasing comment about chemistry on stage, glancing between them with a knowing grin. The audience reacted immediately, cheers rising. Jungkook's fingers twitched slightly at his side. Jimin felt the old tension creeping back in. Then it happened. During a group game segment, another idol playfully draped an arm around Jimin's shoulders for a camera shot. It was harmless, staged, brief. But the crowd roared. And Jungkook saw it. Something sharp flashed across his face before he masked it. Too late, a camera zoomed in. Jimin gently stepped out of the other idol's hold almost immediately, but the damage was done. Online clips were already being cut before the segment even ended. Backstage afterward, Jungkook didn't wait. Was that necessary? He demanded the moment they were alone in the dressing room. Jimin shut the door firmly. It was a game. You could have stepped away faster. I did. You smiled. Jimin stared at him, incredulous. I was on camera. You always are. The words hit harder than intended. Jimin took a step forward. You think I enjoyed that? I think you're too comfortable letting people get close. And you're too ready to assume the worst. The air felt charged, heavy with unsaid fears. You said you were scared of losing me, Jimin continued, voice rising slightly. But do you realize how suffocating it feels when every interaction becomes a threat in your eyes? Jungkook's breathing quickened. I'm not trying to suffocate you. Then stop gripping so tight. Silence. The dressing room mirror reflected them, two figures standing inches apart, eyes blazing, exhaustion and love tangled together in a way neither of them fully understood. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Do you know what it feels like watching millions of people claim you, to see comments saying you look better with someone else, that you have more chemistry elsewhere? Jimin's expression faltered. I see it too, Jungkook pressed on. Every edit, every comparison, I'm human, Jimin. And so am I, Jimin shot back. Do you think I don't see people analyzing your every move, pairing you with others, questioning us? Then why does it look like it doesn't bother you? Because if I let it show, it'll eat me alive. The confession lingered between them. Jungkook's anger wavered. You're better at hiding it, he said more quietly. I have to be, Jimin replied. I can't fall apart every time the internet decides who I belong to. The words were sharp, but they weren't cruel. Jungkook's shoulders slowly dropped. I don't want to own you, he said after a long pause. I just want to feel chosen. The vulnerability in his voice stripped away the last of Jimin's anger. You are chosen, Jimin said firmly, every day, even when I'm smiling at someone else, even when cameras are on. Jungkook looked unconvinced. Jimin stepped closer until there was no space left between them. Look at me, he said. Jungkook did. If I wanted someone else, Jimin continued, I wouldn't be here arguing with you about this. I would have walked away already. Jungkook swallowed. You think I wouldn't fight for you? He asked quietly. I know you would, Jimin replied. That's the problem, you're always fighting, even when there's no enemy. The tension shifted again, not explosive now, but aching. A knock on the door startled them both. 2 minutes, a staff member called. Jungkook closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with a new steadiness. After this, he said softly, we stop reacting to the noise. Jimin searched his face. You mean it? I mean it. They stepped back onto the stage together. This time the space between them disappeared naturally, not exaggerated, not defiant, just real. When the cameras panned across them during the final segment, Jungkook didn't hesitate. He reached for Jimin's hand, not dramatically, not for spectacle, but subtly, fingers brushing before intertwining for half a second. The crowd erupted. Gasps, screams, shock. It wasn't part of the script. Jimin's heart pounded wildly, but he didn't pull away. He squeezed back. Backstage later, their phones exploded again. Controversy, praise, backlash, headlines questioning boundaries, debates igniting. But for the first time that day, neither of them looked shaken. "Are you ready for this?" Jimin asked quietly as they stood alone near the exit. Night air cool against their skin. Jungkook glanced at the chaos unfolding on his screen, then locked eyes with him. "No," he admitted. Jimin almost smiled. "Me neither." Jungkook stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Jimin could hear. "But I'm ready to stop being afraid of loving you." The honesty in that sentence felt more dangerous than any headline. Jimin felt his pulse steady, strangely calm despite the wildfire spreading online. "Then don't tell me to stop smiling," he murmured. Jungkook's lips curved faintly. "Fine." He brushed his thumb lightly against Jimin's knuckles, grounding, deliberate. "But don't forget who makes you smile the most." Jimin held his gaze, unflinching. "I never have." Backlash didn't simmer, it detonated. By the time they reached the company building the next morning, protesters and reporters were already crowding the entrance. Flashbulbs exploded like lightning. Security had to carve a path through the chaos. Jimin kept his head down, sunglasses shielding his eyes, but he could feel the hostility in the air. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was accusation. Inside the elevator, the silence was suffocating. "They're calling it inappropriate," Jimin said quietly, scrolling through headlines he probably shouldn't be reading. "They always need a villain," Jungkook replied, jaw set. A notification popped up, an emergency meeting with executives. Of course. The conference room felt colder than usual. Executives sat stiffly, expressions carefully neutral but eyes sharp. Their manager looked exhausted. "You two crossed a line," one executive began bluntly. Jungkook didn't flinch. "We held hands." "You know it's not that simple." Jimin's fingers curled into his sleeves. "What exactly is the problem?" "The problem," another executive said, voice tight, "is ambiguity. It invites speculation. Speculation affects brand stability." "So we're brands now?" Jungkook asked coolly. "You've always been brands." The statement hung in the air like something rotten. Jimin felt heat rising in his chest. "We've given everything to this company, our youth, our privacy, our bodies, and now you're telling us holding hands is a threat." "It's about control," the executive snapped. "You cannot allow narratives to spiral out of your hands." Jungkook leaned forward, eyes dark. "They were never in our hands to begin with." The room went silent. One of the executives sighed. "There are rumors escalating. People are digging into your personal lives. If this continues, it could damage not just you but the group." There it was, the real weapon. The group. Jimin stiffened. "Are you implying we're selfish?" "I'm implying you need to be strategic." Jungkook's laugh was sharp. "Strategic about what? Not caring, not looking at each other too long." The tension thickened. "You will release a statement," the executive said firmly, clarifying that what happened was a spontaneous show of friendship, nothing more. Jimin felt the words like a slap. "Friendship." He glanced at Jungkook, searching for hesitation. He found none. "No," Jungkook said simply. The word was quiet, steady, dangerous. The room erupted. "You don't have a choice." "We always have a choice," Jungkook cut in. Jimin's heart pounded violently. This was bigger than jealousy now, bigger than whispers backstage. This was war. After the meeting dissolved into unresolved tension, they were pulled into a smaller office by their manager. "Are you trying to destroy everything?" the manager demanded, voice cracking with stress. Jimin finally spoke. "We're trying to stop lying." "You think the world wants the truth?" the manager shot back. "They want fantasy, they want comfort, not complications." Jungkook's eyes flashed. So we're supposed to erase ourselves for comfort. You're supposed to protect the group. The argument twisted like a knife. Outside, social media was dividing into camps. Some praised their courage, others accused them of betrayal. Fan wars ignited. Articles speculated about internal fractures. And then came the real blow. An anonymous post surfaced claiming insider information that the two of them had caused tension for months, that jealousy had created rifts behind the scenes, that other members were tired of the drama. It spread like wildfire. Jimin's hands shook as he read it. They're dragging everyone into this. Jungkook's expression darkened. It's not true. But it doesn't matter if it's true, Jimin whispered. It sounds believable. For the first time, doubt crept into Jungkook's eyes. What if they're right about one thing, he murmured. Jimin looked up sharply. About what? About us. About this becoming bigger than we can control. The vulnerability in his voice cut deeper than any executive's threat. Jimin stepped closer. Do you regret it? Jungkook hesitated. The pause felt like a blade against Jimin's throat. I regret hurting the others, Jungkook said carefully. I don't regret choosing you. The answer both relieved and terrified him. Later that night, the members gathered privately. The atmosphere was heavy but not hostile, concerned, protective. You two okay? One of them asked gently. Jimin nodded too quickly. Jungkook remained quiet. We're not angry, another member said. We are worried. The pressure's insane right now. Jimin's throat tightened. We never meant to drag anyone into this. You didn't, came the reply. The world did. The solidarity steadied him. But outside that room, the pressure kept building. Sponsors began asking questions. Interview requests doubled. The company drafted statements they hadn't approved. Back in their apartment, the exhaustion finally cracked something open. Maybe we should have just listened, Jimin said quietly, sitting on the edge of the couch. Jungkook stiffened. Listen to what? To the statement, the safe version. Jungkook stared at him like he'd been struck. You want to backtrack? I want peace, Jimin shot back. I want the noise to stop. And if the price of that peace is pretending this isn't real, Jungkook's voice rose. Can you do that? Jimin hesitated. That hesitation was enough. You're thinking about it, Jungkook whispered, hurt seeping through his anger. I'm thinking about the group, about everything we built. And what about us? The question was raw. Jimin stood abruptly. Don't make me choose. I'm not, Jungkook said fiercely. I'm asking if you're already choosing. Silence roared between them. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance, mirroring the storm inside. I'm scared, Jimin admitted finally, voice trembling. This could cost us everything. Jungkook stepped closer, eyes blazing not with jealousy now, but with desperation. And I'm scared of losing you to fear. The words hit their target. Jimin looked up at him, eyes glassy but steady. You once told me to save my real smiles for you, he said softly. What if I lose them completely because of this? Jungkook's expression softened. Then I'll remind you why you smiled in the first place, he whispered. The storm outside broke, rain slamming against the windows. Inside, they stood inches apart, both trembling for different reasons. This isn't about hand-holding anymore, Jimin said quietly. I know. It's about whether we're strong enough to survive the consequences. Jungkook reached for his hand again, slower this time. We survived together, he said. Jimin looked down at their intertwined fingers, then back up at the man who had once whispered jealousy in his ear and was now standing at the edge of something far more dangerous. The world was watching. The company was pressuring. Rumors were multiplying. But in that charged silence, soaked in rain and fear and fierce, undeniable love, Jimin made a choice. He tightened his grip. I'm not erasing us, he said.